Welcome to Tasteful Choices. I'm Jodi Nordlund, and I work with University of Minnesota Extension, and together with 4-H and the Boys and Girls Club, we are hosting a cooking class for young people here at the Deer River High School. And part of what we're doing is we hope that they learn to cook or expand their cooking knowledge and learn to cook food that's healthy, tasty, and inexpensive. And tonight we made turkey tacos, and they were a huge success. So over the course of 6 weeks, we will prepare several different recipes. And the kids will also participate in an extreme meal makeover. So they will be choosing a recipe for a food that maybe isn't quite so healthy. And then with all the nutritional information that they're learning each week, they will modify that recipe to be healthy. In this, I'm going to give everybody a recipe so you can see what we're doing. You can take one and pass it down. And everybody will have one of these little Waffle E things. That helps keep your cutting board from slipping. So you can put that under your cutting board. Isn't that cool? Yeah, this is cool too. And if you don't have one of these, you can just wet a paper towel and stick under your cutting board, and that will help it keep from slipping around. That's probably one of the first things you want to do, is you want to make sure that the surface area where you're working is safe and isn't wobbly, or you know, if you're trying to keep your cutting board in line, then you might get cut more easily. So, okay. So in this recipe, what does it say we do with the carrot? Grate. Grate it. So we need a grater, right? Okay. So when you get back to your stations, you guys can decide who in your group is going to do what job, okay? What are some other vegetables you can grate? What's that? Zucchini. Zucchini, yep. What else? Well, cheese is not a vegetable. Wouldn't it be nice if it were? So we're adding the color and the nutrition of a carrot to our tacos, but it's not like you're eating carrot tacos, right? That would be interesting. Okay, so I'll just stop with that. And let's see. Okay, what's next on our list? Okay, so this is, you can either do carrot, sweet potato, or I think it says zucchini, okay? And we're doing the carrot. And you're going to get a carrot to go home, but you could use any of those things. And then anything else that we have to chop or prepare? Rinse and shred lettuce, and then the tomato, okay. So has anybody ever, normally I prefer to do romaine lettuce, but because does anybody know why I would prefer that? What's that?
I do not know why I was going to.
Because it, what color is it?
Green.
And is it darker or lighter than this?
Darker.
Darker. So usually when you find darker color vegetables and fruits, especially greens, there's more nutrition in it. But I chose this today because it's somehow that's what we associate with putting on tacos, right? Iceberg lettuce. Okay, so has anybody ever taken the core out? Okay, get ready. So here's the core. And you hit it hard on the counter. It just comes right out.
Oh, my mom showed me that trick last night.
Isn't that awesome? Okay, so somebody else can try it. You want to try it? Right now.
I need space.
Give her some space. Oh, good job. You got it. There you go. Perfect. Okay, and so then we are going to, sometimes I take off the outer leaves, especially if they look a little dry or brown or, you know, they might not look that great. And then, let's see, the rest looks pretty good. And then I'm going to rinse or wash the lettuce down there. Thank you. Okay, so to cut the lettuce, so I put it the core side down, okay, and then just carefully go through, cut it in half. Now you are going to have, yeah, you can have a half. There's still a lot of water in here. Okay, so I have it, the core side is facing away from me, okay? And then my knife, or my hand is holding the lettuce like a claw, right? Tip on the cutting board. And see here too, I'm using a flat surface. I have a flat surface on the lettuce. Any food you're gonna cut, it's a lot easier and safer if you have a flat surface, okay? And then I'm going to go as thin as I can. So it's almost like you're shredding it. And it's not a race, so you can take your time. Okay, so you can do that whole, you know, half of a head. See? Is that nice? Mm-hmm. Okay, a lot of times tomatoes are pretty soft. So if you use a chef's knife, you're going to squish the tomato because generally people's knives aren't quite sharp enough. Sometimes they might be, which would be good. So in the case that they're not, I use a serrated knife. You know what serrated means? Yep, it's the jagged edges. And I think most of you will have the small ones. This is also a good bread, it's a bread knife. So I cut the top off. And then you can turn it that way to be flat if you want. Just cut it in half. And this is where you saw a little bit. So I'm just cutting it in slices. And then take a couple pieces at a time. And you can cut them as small as you want if you know, I'm just doing them in halves or thirds. Okay, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, and most of you have little bowls over there where you can put the tomatoes in one bowl, the lettuce in the other bowl. Okay, now for the cooking part. So we're gonna turn on, I'm gonna turn it probably between medium high and high, okay? Because when I fry meat, I want it to be hot. A lot of the flavor from our food is going to come from this frying, okay, or sautéing and browning. And so when we brown something, you actually want it to sit in the pan and brown at a higher heat. Otherwise, it's almost like you're just boiling it, okay? So you can use, turkey is this is turkey breast, and it's very lean, so you'll want to put some fat in your pan, either canola oil a little bit or spray. You can do either one, okay? I'm going to use the oil. And sometimes it says to measure, but I just eyeball it. So just enough to cover the pan. Oh, can you smell the meat? It's starting to, and do you see here how it's starting to get nice and brown? That's what really gives it the good flavor.
Do you want this drained?
The beans, yes, hold on. So you can drain them in here over the sink, and actually you can rinse them with warm water for a couple of minutes, because then you're rinsing some of the salt off. Okay, I need, a couple people can measure the spices that we need, okay? Do you two want to measure the spices? A lot of times people will buy taco seasoning at the store in a package, but we don't need to do that, right? Because we're making it right here. Bring over that spice. I think you can just shake some in there.
I got it.
That's like a 4.
She should put a couple shakes in.
Not a lot.
That's probably,
It says half teaspoon.
okay, we're good. We're good. So now, isn't that pretty?
Okay, these ones are dirty.
So what you're going to do is you're going to brown your meat. And as it's browning, you can add your spices. You can mix them up together. And then someone can open the tomatoes. You don't want to drain those. You want that juice. But you can drain and rinse the beans, okay? And then someone can chop the tomatoes and the lettuce. Someone needs to grate the carrot. And so when this is, I'm going to put the seasoning in now. Okay. And then I'm going to still let this brown a little bit more. You might have to turn your stove up. This isn't super hot, I guess. And then when this is nice and cooked, then you can add the rest of the ingredients, the beans and the diced tomatoes, okay? And then when that's cooking, you'll go and be with Deb, okay? So everybody feel comfortable with what our goals are? Okay, and do you remember the tables you were sitting at? Okay, how about if that is your group? The table you were at is your group. Sound okay? Okay, so go for it. Good luck. We'll be around to help you.
So I'm going to move through everything really quickly. We don't have a lot to cover today other than I want to talk about this. How many of you are familiar with this? What do we call it?
My plate.
And why are you familiar with it? Where have you
My
heard?
mom worked at my plate.
Oh, she did. Awesome.
And then she got fired, or like she had to go because they didn't have enough stuff.
Okay, that happens sometimes. Okay. How about everybody else? How have you guys heard of this? Or what makes you familiar with my plate?
4-H.
4-H. Okay, school. Right? That's awesome.
Teachers and stuff, they would always like be mentioning it.
Okay.
Like when we were in like
Elementary school, right. Like that's where I go and I teach about this to elementary kids.
class.
In health class, yes, right? So why do we have my plate? So you've seen it, you've heard about it. Why do we have my plate? What is it even there for? Huh? Balance of nutrition, right? What else?
Shows you how much of everything you should eat.
That's right. So my plate, okay, it's put out by the USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, right? Every 5 years, they come up with a guide for what types of food, how much of that food we should be eating to make ourselves healthy, right? So my plate not only includes the food groups, but it also includes exercise, right? Because we know good food, exercise makes a healthy body, okay? So what I want us to do, and the reason why I gave you a recipe, is I want us to figure out the food that's in your recipe, what food groups we are eating today, okay? So this is what I want you to do. Look at the recipe. You already made it, so you should know in your head, what are those food groups that each of these foods fit in? Okay, so what fits in the grain group? The taco shells. So we have grains, we are eating something from the grains. Let's see if we have something from every food group.
Vegetables.
So just a minute, so we've got the taco shells, right? Okay, and so we do have the vegetable group. What do we have in the vegetable group?
Carrot.
Carrots, carrots, lettuce.
Zucchini.
Are we eating zucchini today?
No.
Okay, only what we're eating today. So we got carrots, lettuce, tomatoes, right? Were there any other veggies?
Onion powder.
Well,
Powders count.
onion powder, would that be a vegetable? Probably not. No, it's a spice. So if it was a real onion, of course, then it would go here, right?
Dairy.
We have dairy. What do we have from the dairy group today? Cheese.
Sour cream.
Sour cream? We do have sour cream, don't we? Okay.
We have protein.
We have protein. I was waiting for that one. Lots of protein. What is in our recipe that's from the protein group?
Ground turkey.
The beans and the ground turkey. Both of them.
We technically had because tomatoes are technically both fruit.
Yeah. So it kind of depends. Do we want to say a tomato's a fruit or a vegetable?
Let's do it.
But the thing is, my plate, does my plate put the tomato as a fruit or a vegetable? It puts that fruit, I'm calling it a fruit because scientifically it is a fruit, right? If I was a botanist, yep, that tomato is a fruit. But the tomato goes in with the vegetables in my plate. Does anybody know why? Why would we put the tomato in with the vegetable group when really it's a fruit? Anybody know why?
It's just like known as a vegetable.
You know, it has to do with how we eat it. It's because of how we eat it. Well, not so much the color. We don't typically eat a tomato like we eat an apple.
We
cook it.
We don't eat it just by itself.
Right, we usually put it in a salad, right? We don't eat it like an apple where you would just pull it out of the fridge and bite it, right? We put it like in a dish like we're making tonight, right? It's in the sauce or it's on top. So that's why some of these veggies botanically are fruit. Peppers are really fruit. Pumpkins are really a fruit, but because of the seeds.
That one like yellow thing is kind of a fruit.
Yeah, it's got seeds inside. Okay, so botanically it's a fruit because it's got seeds inside. But because of how we eat them, we put them in the veggie group. Okay, so do we have any fruit? If we're not going to call a tomato a fruit, that's the one food group we're missing, right? So we have all of these other groups, which is really pretty good. So if we were doing a complete meal, right, how could we include fruit into a dinner like this? Like a side, right.
You can make it olive salad.
You could make what?
Olive salad.
An olive salad. You could do that. What would be another way? We could put fruit on the side. We could make what? A dessert, right? Yeah. Yes.
Fruit juice?
A fruit juice. 100% fruit juice, right? So you could do that. So there's all these ways that you could add fruit and you would have a balanced my plate. Because right now we've got everything. So when you go home, you can have a fruit and then you will have everything that you need for your dinner.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I heard from like a lot of people say that if you have 100% fruit juice, it's not as good as if you would have actual fruit because it's not molding.
That is very true. Yep. Did you guys hear that? If you, did you hear what she said?
She said that it's better to have just a normal fruit than 100% fruit juice.
Because, do you know why that is?
Because
You're not getting all the nutrients from the actual fruit, you're just getting the juice. And there's not actually, like one piece of fruit they say is like a serving. When you put it into a juice, it's not even that much.
And yes, and the other thing is fruit and vegetables have something called fiber. Have you guys heard of fiber? No. Okay, so fresh fruit and fresh vegetables have fiber, and fiber is that crunchiness. Crunch, 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 right? You eat an apple, really crunchy. That's the fiber. When you drink juice, they take the fiber out. There's no fiber in juice. It's just the juice. So fruit are made up of fiber and juice. And when you make juice, usually the fiber's all taken out. Unless you get orange juice with a lot of pulp. Because that pulp is the fiber. That's the chewy part. Okay? So, all right. So it is. It's much better to just take an apple or take an orange and eat it than have juice. A lot more nutrients. Okay? All right. So here's my plate. Here's our recipe. This is everything we're eating. Now, the last thing, we only have about 5 minutes before we're going to eat. We are going to be doing something called, it's kind of like a food challenge. And we're calling it the Extreme Food Makeover. So the very last day that we get together, what we're going to do is kind of have you ever seen those cooking shows, right? Yeah. Where people make something and they present it and it gets judged?
Yeah.
That's what you guys, yeah, that's what you guys are going to do.
Like in a group?
You're going to do it in a group. So you're going to be a group. Yes. You guys are going to be a group.
I know all these.
And so there'll be 4 people in a group. So if more kids come next time, we'll have another group, right? So what you're going to be doing is each time we meet, we'll be working on this together a little bit more. But the recipe that you will actually be presenting the very last time to some judges is going to be a makeover. That's why it's called an extreme food makeover. You're going to, as a group, come up with your favorite recipe that you make at home, or maybe one of your favorite meals at home. But you're only going to do one, so you kind of have to all come up together and decide which one it's going to be, okay? Then the makeover is, after we start meeting every time and we learn more and more about nutrition, you are going to be making over that meal to be more nutritious. So you're going to change it up a little bit and make it healthier. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Each group is going to get, somebody needs to be the person that's going to be writing things out. But now listen, you guys listen. Today, there's only 2 things that I really need you to do. Okay, you need to come up with a team name.
Thunder Nuggets.
Come up with, okay, you need to come up with a team name. Okay? And after you come up with a team name and you get everybody's name written down on here too that's in your group, I'd like you to start brainstorming some of your favorite recipes. So you each can contribute to this. We won't decide on a recipe today, but start brainstorming, and there's a little section on the bottom. What are some of those things that you really like? And we will eventually come up with one. Okay? So good job. So I think you want to go back to your stations because it's going to be time to get ready to eat.
Thank you for tuning in to Tasteful Choices. And next week we will prepare a chicken and veggie stir fry.